This is Real News Media TV, coverage you can trust. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates. Good afternoon, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for December 20, 2022. And in the news this afternoon, Portmore pastor shot near home dies. Linval Lewis, the pastor of the Spanish Town Tabernacle and the Greater Portmore Tabernacle, who was shot several times near his Portmore home on Monday, has died. The matter is now a murder investigation, the police say. Reverend Lewis was receiving treatment at the hospital. He was attacked just after midday by a gunman who opened fire at him while he was driving from his house on Northwest 10th Way in Greater Portmore, St. Catherine. The gunman is believed to have waylaid him. The incident occurred in the presence of other family members who were traveling with him. As he came under gunfire, Lewis lost control of the motor car he was driving, which veered off the roadway and onto a sidewalk, coming to a halt in a clump of small trees meters away from his home. Church members have expressed a shock at the incident. The St. Catherine South Police are investigating. Up to December 12, the St. Catherine South Police Division had seen 100 shootings this year, on par with the figure recorded for the corresponding period of 2021. It had also seen a 15.5% year-on-year decline in murders, with 109 people killed this year. Injuries, robberies, and break-ins recorded increases over the period under review, while rape had declined. Last week, Monday, the island-wide murder tally for 2022 stood at 1,442. $50 million fund for info on gangs. A $50 million fund has been established to pay informants on gangs operating in Jamaica. The intervention is aimed at countering an expected surge in crime as Christmas nears. We want to get people who are involved in contract killings, people who are planning to hijack stock and goods in transit, and people who are planning to rob supermarkets during the Christmas season and other business establishments, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said on Monday. The Prime Minister was speaking in Civil Heights, St. Anne, as he handed over 2 houses to 2 sisters who were relocated from the boyhood home of national hero Marcus Garvey. Addressing the state of emergency imposed in St. Anne on December 6, Holness said the security measure has allowed the police to detain more than 30 alleged criminals, 2 of whom have been charged for murder. 2 domestic murders were recorded in the parish during the SOE. The crackdown, which was implemented in 7 other parishes, expires at midnight on Tuesday. The Prime Minister reiterated his commitment to ensure the safety of Jamaicans, warning that under the new Firearms Act, persons found guilty will be sentenced to a minimum of 15 years behind the bars. Meanwhile, the 2 houses presented to sisters Jacinth and Carla Johnson came 11 years after the government first announced plans to acquire Garvey's boyhood home in St. Anne's Bay. The aim was to establish a monument there in honor of the late Pan-Africanist. Holness said while the construction of the houses did not fulfill all requirements of the new social housing program, special arrangements were made to have the homes completed. He challenged Culture Minister Olivia Grange to ensure that the monument for Garvey befits his stature. Meanwhile, the sisters both expressed delight at the property handover. JAMDA dismayed by government's decision to make a retroactive payment only to doctors permanently employed. President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Mindy Fitzhenley, is concerned about the decision of the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service to only award retroactive pay to doctors who have a permanent post. Dr. Fitzhenley noted on Monday that the majority of doctors within the health system are on a contract and received the retroactive pay in previous wage negotiations. She said this new position will affect future negotiations. Dr. Fitzhenley, speaking with the news, said she was awaiting documentation from the ministry to explain the rationale for its decision.
Those doctors who are on contract, which is the vast majority of our doctors, that these doctors will not be receiving retroactive salary. What they will be doing is automatically transitioning them across the post by March 31st, 2023, these doctors will get their prorated gratuity up to the point that they have worked, and only when it is that they've been switched over to post will they get the new compensation rate. But as you can imagine, that is very upsetting because the doctors who are already on post will be receiving the retroactive salary along with the new rate. Again, this is all dependent on when we, if and when we sign to this agreement. Right now, because this was a verbal update at about 2:27 p.m. this afternoon, we have nothing in writing just yet without any explanation as to why any of this is happening. So we're hoping that when we get this in writing, that we'll be able to go through it thoroughly, from the very beginning to the very end, and with all the powers that be to ensure that everything in front of us is set out legally, and so we can know how to proceed. Again, we'll have to carry this back to the members, though, because as you can imagine, this is a very big change as to what we understood before.
Okay.
What we were told before was that persons will get the retroactive money, and that would be the new rate to be initiated. So these sort of stipulations were not laid out before.
$15,000 minimum wage plea. As the Labor and the Social Security Minister Carl Samuda makes plans to announce an increase in the minimum wage early next year, the members of at least one low-income group are urging the cabinet member to surprise them. President of the Jamaica Household Workers Union, Elaine Duncan, wants the minister to move the current minimum wage from $9,000 per week to $15,000 weekly. Samuda told the news on Monday that he will announce a minimum wage increase in early 2023. However, he said that members of the National Minimum Wage Commission, who have the task of preparing a report with recommendations for increases in the minimum wage and for a rate increase for industrial security guards, have not yet submitted their proposals. Bemoaning the rising cost of living and its impact on low-income earners, the JHWU boss said that every week you go to the supermarket, it's a different price. I am looking for a surprise from the government this time, she stressed. Duncan said that the 7,000 strong members of her organization were not satisfied with a 28.5% increase granted to minimum wage earners on April 1, 2022. Prior to this increase, the national minimum wage was last adjusted in 2018. She said that some members of her organization have complained that they are also being charged higher fares than those approved by the Transport Authority in the last increase granted to public transport operators in 2021. We are supposed to pay around the town $120, but bus drivers and conductors are telling you before you step up on the buses that it is $150 they are charging, Duncan said. Even to go up to Lawrence Tavern in rural St. Andrew, when they come down in the evening and it gets dark, they begin to charge $200 to Lawrence Tavern, she added. Duncan noted that if the state-owned Jamaica Urban Transit Company buses operated on schedule, their members would not be left at the mercy of other public passenger vehicle operators. At the end of a series of consultations in Kingston last month, National Minimum Wage Commission Chairman Dr. Ronald Robinson said that the group was working to complete its report for submission to the minister before year-end. 2 brothers acquitted of shooting charge. 2 brothers were on Monday acquitted of shooting charge in the Home Circuit Court. They are Ramon Rainford, 29, and the 34-year-old mechanic Rajik Gordon, both of Rose Hall District, Lawrence Tavern in St. Andrew. The brothers, represented by attorneys Courtney Rowe and John Jacobs, were accused of shooting a member of their community on August 14, 2020. Prior to handing down the verdict, Justice Yvonne Brown noted that there were glaring and obvious inconsistencies in the evidence, and the complainant's credibility could not withstand the rigorous cross-examination from the defense. New trucks pay off as a garbage backlog cleared in several regions. The National Solid Waste Management Authority says the recent addition of 50 new trucks to its fleet has allowed it to clear the pileup of garbage across several regions. The new units were handed over to the authority on November 30 and dispatched ahead of the anticipated busy Christmas season. NSWMA Chairman Dennis Chung said the western, northeastern, and the southern parks and markets are reporting major improvement in the collection of solid waste and now have zero backlog. Speaking in an interview with the news, He said there has been a redeployment of trucks to supplement those of metropolitan parks and markets in the corporate area, which still has some backlog. Mr. Chung is confident that this move will result in zero backlog in MPM and across the country by this week.
Since we received the 50 new trucks, it has been very, very helpful, and especially with the 8 trucks we designated to the sweep operation. What we find is that as of last week, about Wednesday, Thursday, there was zero backlog in 3 regions, WPM, NEPM, and SPM. The only one that we had some backlogs in still, and we're working on it, is MPM, which is Metropolitan Parks and Markets. So what we have done is we've moved all the sweep trucks into MPM to supplement the new ones they had and the existing ones they had in there before. So we're confident by this week we'll have zero backlog in MPM and across the country. What we're doing now in those 3 regions, we have cleared all the backlogs. We're back to an average of once weekly collection now. So as soon as we see issues starting to arise, and MPM is the most difficult because the most popular, we'll move the sweep trucks in. So we're pretty confident about it. As a matter of fact, as of last week, Thursday, complaints had fallen by 70%, which is significant. And you're just talking about 2 weeks since the trucks have come in. So we continue to work them, and this is also the busy season because people generate the most waste at this time during Christmas.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Select all for daily news updates.